Hey, brothers and sisters, I hope you well. Here I'm again for another video regarding the Congo. This time, I won't be providing you with a summary of what's happening, although I'll be touching on recent events. This time, I'm going to give you my opinion, what I think about what's going on. I've been giving you hints doing all these videos, trying to help you to make your own mind and your own understanding about the situation in the Congo. I've been giving you different points of views from those that support the cause of the M23 and those that oppose it. I've also explained to you what is going on at the international level and the reason why this conflict exists. So let me start with this. And my ethnicity is Congolese, as many of you might know already. And that's the reason why, obviously, this topic, it comes to my heart, basically. And I know I always talk about international relations and I focus more on events that take place that I think will have an effect on the international structure. Like the war in Ukraine, like what happened in the Middle East, what happened in South America and other countries. Now we're focusing in Africa, okay, which I've been sharing quite a lot of information about what happened in Mali, Burkina Faso, and many other countries in Africa. Now, in order to understand the Congolese situation, you need to understand history. And history says, regardless of what many Rwandese say, many Kenyans say, and some people from Nigeria also say, okay, in history, there was an empire called the Congo, okay? This empire was formed by the Europeans, and these guys, well, they found them in Africa, okay, but they were there already. So they dealt with the king of the Congo Empire in many ways. There's history out there for you to look for it, understand how the king of the empire, he did agree and collaborated with the colonizers for some time until he realized what their plans were. Okay, until he realized that these colonizers were depopulating his empire, until he realized that these colonizers were treating the enemies of war not as normal slaves that would be similar to servants in Europe. They were treated as less than animals. Then you have very, very important figures in Central Africa that fought against slavery, against colonialism. Look at the history. Many females that got involved in this, and they did a very, very good job. Now, obviously, the rest is history. They came in, they colonized the Congo, they made it a trade-free area, okay? And this is extremely important for you to understand. Trade-free area. So although the time has passed, the conditions are still the same. Not much has changed. They want the Congo to continue to be a trade-free area. So first you need to understand the actors, the countries, individuals, corporations that are pretty much involved in this. Free trade is basically what neoliberalism advocates for, although it doesn't implement it in reality, because many countries that advocate neoliberalism and freedom of trade with other countries, these same countries, what they do is that they implement a very conservative approach in their own countries, okay? And what they do is they secure the economy and they support the corporations overseas and they subsidize pretty much the activities overseas in order to sell the products much cheaper than what they sell it at home, or to obtain the products much cheaper than what they will obtain it if they use their own labor to obtain that product. In some cases, they don't even use their own labor. They use the labor from the countries that they call countries or developing countries or undeveloped countries. Okay. Now, countries like the Congo, they're not developed. They're not underdeveloped either. Okay. These countries have been, um, it's not allowed, they didn't allow them to develop in the way they should have been. Okay. So the underdevelopment of the Congo is due to the continuous interference from Western countries in their own internal affairs. That's the first thing. Obviously, to justify this, they always blame tribalism. They always say that there is internal conflict within the Congo, okay? And this is the imperial narrative that, as we'll explain later, there are many countries in Africa today that are using the same imperial narrative. They always say that there is division between tribes, although that division is created by them, okay? They always say that the Congolese governments are no good at administrating the country, although that the person that they normally put there to administrate the country is controlled by them. Okay, it's not just controlled by them; it's that they allow these individuals like Mobutu, okay, like Kabila, they allow them to enrich themselves to pretty much control many companies that have control over the key resources of the country. Okay, and this is one thing that you need to consider. The fact that every time an imperialist nation takes over a country, the main source of income, it might be petrol, it might be some kind of mineral, it might be agriculture. They always leave this under the hand of the government. And it doesn't mean that they allow this so the people can benefit from it. No, they allow this so the leader can benefit from this. And this has been the case in the Congo for many years. When the Congo was looking for its own independence, they killed the revolution. They killed the rightful leader that he was elected democratically and well loved by the population. Rwanda was there. Rwanda has been there every time a leader was removed, okay, in the Congo. Now, these imperialist powers, although apparently they left imperialism, they gave independence to the colonies, okay, this is not true. Now, many African countries are economic administrations. This actually means that, okay, you have your so-called independence, you are a sovereign state, okay? And this is in front of the eyes of the people. This is what we show. But in reality, is that we left you to manage your own country, and there are own terms and rules. But the mineral resources and the economy itself of your country is not controlled by you. And this is what we mean by neoliberalism, by free trade, is that the key sectors of a specific country, they're pretty much controlled by external powers. Now, Congo is transitioning into some kind of nationalization of many industries. There have been issues in the past with the Chinese, with the Israelis regarding the mining industry in the Congo, because they were not happy with the current contracts and they wanted to regulate the industry much more. As I explained to you in a previous video. So mining has always been one of the main issues in the Congo. And in fact, one of the industries that could have been making the most for the country if it wasn't because it's open to foreign private companies. Now, throughout the time, okay, somehow they managed to kind of regularize it, have control over it. And this is what is actually bringing problems to the Congo today. Nothing to do with Banyamulenge, nothing to do with M23, nothing to do with the Eastern conflict in general. It's all to do with mineral resources. Now, in the past, this used to be controlled by who? The imperialist powers, which they're still there today. Although they call themselves democracies, they call themselves democracies because they have a parliament. Some of them have even a royal family, okay? But they call themselves parliamentary democracies, okay? Now, we need to be careful with this because although they call themselves democracies, they do not support democracy outside of the country. Good examples are the UK, for example, the United States, that they've supported many dictatorships, and they still do so to date. Now, they support democracy in, but not out. They allow some individuals to rule a country for 24 years, like Rwanda, or for even longer, like Uganda, Museveni. But they don't do anything against them because these are the administrators of that specific economic administration. Call it whatever you want. In this case, we're talking about the Congo. So we know that the source of problems here is the minerals, which is wanted by those that lost colonial control. And now they use a system called neoliberalism, which promotes free trade, which promotes the reduction of tariffs or the removal of tariffs, which promotes an open trade between countries without the interference of the governments. This works in theory, but it doesn't work in reality. It doesn't work in reality because many countries need to protect the economies and the industries in order to progress economically. And this has been the case of the Asian tigers. This has been the case of the United States. This has been the case of every single country or every single modern country in this world that has managed to develop. So you can see, if you protect your industry and if you are very conservative, like the European Union is, like the United States is, okay, obviously that's going to help you internally and your industries. But there are certain resources that you do not have and that you have to get from other countries. You cannot promote the same idea overseas because that means that the product that you're going to buy is going to be much more expensive. Therefore, it's going to be expensive to run your conservative economic union. Therefore, the policies that you promote outside, they are policies that seek to liberate and free the market of a specific country. You have organizations such as the World Trade Organization, such as the World Bank, such as the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the Club of Paris. You have financial, economic, and advisory organizations that what they do is exactly promote the opposite of what you support in your country. They make it sound sweet. They make it sound attractive. Development means investment in infrastructure. Many African countries try to do this. Not only that, they contract the expertise that they come from Western countries. However, the reality is far from the truth. Many of them basically have to take big loans from international banks such as the IMF, of the World Bank, okay? Many of them, they inherit these debts. Remember that after colonization, many empires like France, they put the money used to quell the revolt in the colonies. They basically gave it to the new independent countries. So the debt that the French used to buy weapons, etc., in order to prevent what happened, which was an emancipation of that country, right? That money was inherited by the new countries. Okay? This is wrong, but this is how it was done. So many African countries find themselves in a debt trap, okay? Where they have too much debt that it was left by former administrators, or if you want to call them presidents, okay? And now they have to pay for it. They're trying to pay for this using the natural resources. But at the same time, you have other organizations that advise these countries to do not nationalize the industries, to keep them private, because this is the most efficient way to run the economy. Many of them, they don't have good fiscal structures which help them to collect tax from these foreign companies. In fact, many of them are bribed by these foreign companies, multinationals, that only seek profit. And to make a big profit and make millions, you have to reduce the tax that you pay in these countries where you obtain your resources. You have to reduce the cost of production, okay? So this is the second problem. We want resources. Main problem, the Congo has it. Second problem, we need to build our economies and keep our mode of life, keep our lifestyle, keep our standards of life. So the exploitation needs to exist. It's no longer done by the force, okay, by the use of guns. Now it's done by promoting an idea that conservative countries that are part of the European Union, for example, do not even apply themselves. Now, third problem, when these countries think like they should think, the natural resources that are under the feet is theirs to keep, to use. And they will seek knowledge from other countries in order to be able to take these natural resources and to convert them into secondary or tertiary goods. Okay? When this happens, just like the imperial powers, they don't like the colonies or the colonial subjects to think too much and to use these resources to profit or benefit themselves and then sell it to the colonial powers much more expensive. Therefore, you need to find a way to stop them from doing this. And throughout history, this is well documented. The main way they found to do this is destabilization. Okay? Control over the government by putting in place, in power, an administrator that would administer the colony, okay, or the country. A person that is ruthless, a person that is careless about the well-being of their own people. This person will have his family living overseas, his children studying overseas, which they will come back later to continue ruling the country. In some cases, like Rwanda, you have a guy who was trained by the CIA, who was supported and financed by the USA and by France today, in order to keep control of that country, Rwanda, and to destabilize its neighbor country, which is the Congo. So we identify three things. Resources, they need it. Okay? Then these resources, they have to obtain it somehow through a system that they do not support. Third, because these countries are going to start thinking, we need to put something in place to make sure that it's destabilized. What the destabilization brings to the table is, if you have a country that doesn't have control over its territories, okay, you have a country that is easy to exploit. And this is exactly what happened in Yugoslavia. This is exactly what happened in Libya. This is exactly what's happening in Syria. And this is exactly what happened in many other countries that have been Balkanized. Okay? And they call it Balkanized, and they're referring to the Balkans, okay? The Balkan region, which were completely divided into different countries, all right? So if you Balkanize a nation, it's easy to exploit it. How you start Balkanizing a nation? First, you create a problem. Let's take the example of Mali and Burkina Faso, where in certain regions, they have extremist group that they didn't even want what they wanted. They just wanted to be what they are, okay? People that only seek problems, and they want to prohibit the nation from advancing economically and in every single means, okay? So these people are located in a specific region. It happens to be that the regions where they are located is the regions with more richness in terms of natural resources. And it's easy to convince the people that live in those regions to seek for independence or to create problems in that region, because you always promise them that they will be the ones that benefit the most about it if they become independent, which is the truth. So greediness is a main thing here, okay? To understand the issues that African countries are facing, to understand the issue that Congo is facing. During colonial times, they were thinking 200 years ahead, and they knew that there will be a point where they won't be able to sustain the colony. What can they use in order to keep control of the colony? I explained to you before, but in order to do that as well, what you do is you take a minority and you put them in power. Because this minority will fight with the teeth in order to keep that power, because they know that if the majority takes power or control over the government, they'll suppress the minority. And they'll do it if that minority was unjust against the majority, which is what happened in Rwanda. Okay? Now, in Congo, we have something similar, but this was more a process. It wasn't so abrupt like we saw in Rwanda during the civil war. Civil war. Let's not forget that during the Rwanda G crime, whatever you want to call it, or civil war, there were Hutus and Tutsis on one side and Hutus and Tutsis on the other side. Both ethnicities were fighting each other, and they were fighting for power, not necessarily to put one ethnicity on top, but they were fighting for power. You have different groups fighting for power, political power in the country. When the Tutsis attack the Hutus, okay, after the first wave of attacks from the Hutus to the Tutsis, on the side of the Hutus, there were also Tutsis that they were fighting alongside the Hutus to force the other Tutsis to move out. Similarly, when the Tutsis attacked, there were moderate Hutus, as they call them, that they were with them fighting against the Hutus. That's why I call it a civil war, because it was a civil war. In the Congo, as I say, they'll put a minority. And the way in which the countries in Africa were cut, let's call it cut, because it was like a piece of cake. They cut it. Some tribes fell under the territory of other countries, and some were completely split between two countries. This, in some cases, was done on purpose to destabilize. Okay? Now, many people are looking at the Banyamulembe. They're looking at the M23, and they're saying that the Congolese government have been suppressing these people. What is the evidence? Anyways, let's say they were suppressing these people. Okay? These people apparently, they are from Rwandan origin. Okay? Tutsis, Hutus is a mixture of both. All right? And they are basically saying that they have been oppressed by the Congolese government. There are way too many tribes in Africa. There are way too many tribes in the Congo. So people don't really understand the reason why these Banyamulembe people, they're getting so much attention. Well, they are because they got Rwanda behind them. And as a nation, if you're part of a nation and you consider yourself part of that nation, okay, regardless of how you treat it, you wouldn't ask for external support unless you have some similarities with that country that you're asking for external support. In this case, ethnicity is what makes the Banyamulenge people, or some of them, because not all agree with what's happening now, some of them, to align with the interests of Rwanda in the Congo rather than to defend the nation. And this is the main problem here between Congolese people and other tribes which are not happy with what the Banyamulenge are doing in the eastern part of the Congo. Now, the M23 are not the Banyamulenge. Be careful. These people did kill the spiritual leader of the Banyamulenge. The Rwandese people did. M23 was created by Rwanda, and the political cause has nothing to do with the independence or the treatment of these people. They might want independence, but for their own reasons. Okay, they want to exploit the Congo's natural resources. It happens to be that the M23, they also invade territories where there are big mines, where there are loads of resources. Okay, so this is the main objective. It's not necessarily to bring rights to a certain tribe in the Congo. It's not necessarily to support certain tribe of the Congo. The aim is to take control over the resources. Okay, now that I touch on the problem mainly in Congo, we need to understand what is the international perspective and how countries are involved in this. Okay, so the main thing here to understand is that there is a war between big powers. Okay, you have the BRICS, in which South Africa is part of. You have the United States, you have Russia, you have China, you have many countries that are involved in the Congo. Okay, and need to understand the role of South Africa here, because although they have many mineral interests in the Congo, okay, because many of South African mining companies, they operate in the Congo. And if they allow countries like Rwanda to take over these territories, to take over these mines, well, they're going to lose a lot of business. So that's important for the South African government and for the South African people as well. Not only that, they're close to the Congolese people. And they don't want to see another nation balkanizing, basically. Okay? They don't want to see that. Now, you have the United States, which so far has been silent about this, because they're supporting Rwanda in this. They're supporting the Ugandan president in this, okay? That's why they've been silent. And because their companies, they have a big interest in the Congo as well. Then you have the Chinese, which are major owners of mines in the Congo. And they have been doing business legally, okay? Although there are some cases, some Chinese are stealing gold and all that, the government deal with the Congolese government like the equals, okay? Like the equals. It's not an imperial power. They just come here to make business. So now you have major powers, basically, fighting for the interest of the minerals in the Congo. As I said before, you need that for computer power. You need that for batteries. You need that for AI, okay? For EV cars. And these are the industries that are growing a lot, and they require these resources from the Congo, okay? So these powers are trying to secure the future, the technological future in the Congo. Some are doing it more legally than others, okay? But this is one of the main things that you need to understand, that the problem in the Congo, okay, is not necessarily something that is detached from what is happening at the international level. The problem in the Congo, okay, is completely linked with the political events that are taking place in the world, and the fact that the balance of power is shifting, okay, is shifting from a unipolar world to a multipolar world. And now there are countries that want to make sure that the Congo remains unified and the one government that can control the nation, okay, and have control over the resources in order to trade with this country in equal terms. And there are other nations that they seek the destruction and the division of the Congo in order to benefit from their resources, okay, by using these Banyamulenge people, the M23, looking for independence of Goma, and then it will be easier to deal with them. Rwandan people and the Rwandan government, they're supporting, okay, the annexation, not even independence, the annexation of Goma to Rwanda, because there are Rwandese people living there, ethnically Rwandese people living there. Okay, that's wrong, but it's not wrong only. It's worse, because this is exactly what many African countries have been fighting against: imperialism. And this is what Rwanda is trying to do in the eastern part of the Congo. They're trying to become some kind of empire. In fact, they don't stop basically referencing historical events, the Tutsi Empire or whatever, yeah, and they want to reconstruct something similar and take part of another country's territory, which happened to be rich in mineral resources, in order to benefit from it. So they have that interest. At the same time, they serve the interest of the masters, who want control over their resources, okay, without regulation. And it will be easier if there's not even a government involved in the extraction of those resources. So the powers that support Rwanda, okay, they're the same ones criticizing Rwanda in the UN. Be careful. The fact that they criticize the country for the actions and for the support for the M23 rebels, in fact, the creation of the M23 rebels, it doesn't mean that they don't support the actions. So sometimes you criticize something to hide your intentions and your complicity. And this is exactly what's happening right now in Rwanda. But you need to look at the papers. You need to look at the economic activities, and you'll see how these countries are continue to benefit the Rwandan economy through the theft and exploitation of Congolese natural resources. Okay, so I'm surprised at the position of many Rwandese. I thought they're smarter than this, in the sense that if someone is doing wrong, you shouldn't align with that person that is doing wrong. Because one day that person will go, it will depart, or will be removed. And those you did wrong to, they will turn against you. And this is one thing that Rwandese people need to consider. Congo is a very strong country. Strong spiritually, people mentally are strong. And not only that, it's a country that have a very, very large population. And they can not only obtain natural resources, but also human resources. Enough people to fill up the army and to march all the way to the capital, Kigali. And this is not something that should be taken off the table. We're reaching a point now where we are about to see a regional war. If this continues to be the way it is, we could see a regional war in the Congo. And it could extend to Rwanda, Uganda, and other countries. Now we see countries like Tanzania, Burundi, countries like Chad, other countries like South Africa, Angola, aligning with the Congo, which is they have a legitimate government and a legitimate president. I don't care if it's corrupt or whatever people wants to say. Okay, they have a legitimate government that is seeking the nationalization of the resources and control over it, and they know this. So they will deal with the legal government of the Congo, not with some M23 rebels backed by Rwanda. So now, these countries see this, and these countries support the Congo. These countries have already taken their position, and they've decided that they'll support the Congo against the M23 and against the interference of Rwanda. So let's see what happens now, because this could lead to a major conflict where you have countries like the ones I've mentioned fighting against the M23, against Rwanda, and who knows, maybe against Uganda, Kenya, and Somalia, which are the countries, because they're all coastside, right? If you look at the Rwandan Tutsis, yeah, they look very similar to Kenyans, to Ethiopians, to Somalians, yeah. They come from there, basically, okay? So maybe they'll allow the ethnicity to betray them, and they will align to a group of rebels, the M23, against the destabilization of a nation. Or maybe they'll think twice, and they'll support the legitimate government of the Congo against a rebel group or terrorist group, as it has been categorized by the Congolese government, that all they're doing is terrorizing the population, displacing them, ethnic cleansing, and stealing the resources. So I've seen so many videos about Rwandans praising M23, they're liberating the Banyamulenge or the oppressed people, praising these Congolese. I don't know if he's a captain or whatever he is. His name is, was it Willie? I think the one that is shouting at the Romanian mercenaries, praising him, praising Corneille Nangaa, whatever his name is, praising other individuals, that all they have been doing is seeking the destabilization of the Congo and the killing of the people of the Congo. This is a crime. And sooner or later, these people will pay. Recently, it was an attack by the Congolese. I think they used a fighter jet to attack a couple of drones that they were about to use by Rwanda in the Congolese territory. And they were heavily criticized by the international community. That was just one jet. Imagine what will happen when you have loads of Congolese soldiers concentrated in the east, ready to remove the M23 forever, and also the threat that comes from Rwanda. So let's not reach that point, because the Congolese people are nice, but they have a limit. They have a limit of how much they can keep this going. And when it was done by Western powers, it was difficult to face them. But when it's done by African country next door, it's not that difficult to neutralize them. So it would be good if Kagame stops this. He allows some democratic elections in the country, like real ones, you know. It would be good if he stopped stealing natural resources from the Congo. It would be good if he stopped supporting and financing the M23 rebels who are displacing, ethnic cleansing the population of the Congo, so everyone can live in peace in the Great Lake regions, and everyone can seek prosperity for their own country, not just for Rwanda, for all of the countries there, and everyone can progress. Every single African country can progress. And before I close, I just want to tell Rwandans, please stop saying that Paul Kagame is a Pan-Africanist, that is the best leader of Africa. The guy's been in power for 24 years. He took power through a military coup, basically, through ethnic cleansing as well. So this guy is not a Pan-Africanist. Not when he was trained by the CIA and he's seeking imperialist. He has imperialist aims in the eastern part of the Congo. He seeks the division of the Congo. He keeps criticizing the Congolese government, but he's doing nothing. As he says, if this is true that he's not involved with the M23, why he's not doing anything to neutralize them? Why every time they catch one of the leaders, he lives peacefully and freely in Rwanda and is not put in jail or given to the Congolese government so they can deal with him? Because after all the crimes he committed, they were against the Congolese people. This clearly tells you the complicity of Rwanda in all this. And I hope things get better, but I'm sure that if Congo needs to fight, they will do it. And there are many people outside of Congo as well, the diaspora. Many of them will be willing to go back to their home country or to their country of origin in order to fight and to defend the unity of the nation. So I hope you like this video. If you did, share with your friends. Please bookmark this, press like, leave a comment below, and please follow me. I'll continue informing you.